In 1336 BCE, Egypt's most powerful queen, Nefertiti, vanished from the pages of history in an instant, from records, from the palace, even from her own tomb, as if she had never existed at all. But why? For over 3,000 years, archaeologists, historians, and mystery hunters have been searching for the answer to this question, and shocking evidence discovered recently might completely change the story. In the tale I'm about to tell you today, there's love, betrayal, religious wars, secret conspiracies, and of course, disappearance. Nefertiti's mysterious vanishing isn't just the story of a queen, it's the story of the ancient world's greatest conspiracy, and modern technology is revealing the truth 3,000 years later. The secret chambers found in Tutankhamun's tomb in 2015, the shocking family connections revealed by DNA tests in 2021, the final day's texts discovered in 2023. Each new discovery sheds a bit more light on this enigmatic queen's secret, but also creates new questions. Our story begins in 1353 BCE, with young Amenhotep IV ascending to Egypt's throne, but the real story unfolds with his mysterious wife, Nefertiti. Nefertiti's name means the beautiful one has come, but this isn't just about physical beauty. She was also intelligent, powerful, determined, and a woman with vision far ahead of her time. Where she came from is one of history's greatest mysteries. Some texts describe her as a Mitanni princess, with royal archives claiming she was King Tushratta's daughter. Other theories suggest she was an Egyptian nobleman's daughter, or even possibly Akhenaten's sister. But one thing is certain, she wasn't just a beautiful face. She was a force that would fundamentally change Egypt's political and religious landscape. That perfect face we know from the famous bust in Berlin Museum was actually her least important feature, because Nefertiti would go down in history, not for her beauty, but for her intelligence. In the early years of her marriage, she perfectly played the traditional queen role, bearing children's 6 daughters, standing beside her husband in religious ceremonies, posing as an elegant queen in artworks. But this was just her mask. The real Nefertiti was much more complex, much more dangerous. Around 1348 BCE, everything started changing. Amenhotep IV made a radical decision. He wanted to tear down Egypt's 1,000-year-old polytheistic religious system and establish monotheism. This wasn't just a religious change, it was also a massive economic and political revolution, because the Amun priests who were powerful under the old system would lose their power with this change. And in this revolution, Nefertiti wasn't just providing support, she was actively leading. The radical decision this couple made shook Egypt to its core. While Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhenaten, to Yudwe, one who serves Aten, Nefertiti also took the name Neferroten Nefertiti, to you beautiful are the beauties of Aten Nefertiti. But what was truly shocking was both being depicted with equal power in artworks. In traditional Egyptian art, queens always stood behind the pharaoh, smaller in size and in more passive positions. But in reliefs showing Nefertiti, she's depicted the same size as Akhenaten, sometimes even in front of him. She's shown crushing enemies, conducting rituals, even driving war chariots, things never done for any Egyptian queen. In the new capital they built at Amarna, Tel El Amarna, Nefertiti's power became even more evident. In the temples built there, she was seen not just as Akhenaten's wife, but as co-founder of the Aten religion. Her being referred to as beloved daughter of Aten in Amarna texts shows she had a special position in this new religion. Her name appearing in diplomatic correspondence proves she took an active role in political decisions. This was unprecedented in Egyptian history because women in Egypt generally didn't wield direct political power except for temporary regencies. The religious revolution started by Nefertiti and Akhenaten didn't just change worship practices, it fundamentally shook Egypt's social, economic, and political structure. The Amun priests, who had effectively ruled Egypt for 1,000 years, suddenly lost their power. The massive temples at Karnak were closed, their wealth transferred to the state treasury, their influence zeroed out. These priests, having lost wealth and influence accumulated over generations overnight, focused on revenge, and the target of their revenge wasn't just Akhenaten, was also Nefertiti, the most fanatical supporter of this revolution. During this period, Nefertiti's true character fully emerged, and she was far from an innocent beauty. Ostraca, pottery shards, and papyrus documents found at Amarna record her ruthless orders. She was the one who had old god statues smashed. She was the one who had traditional temples destroyed. She was the one who sent resistant priests into exile. A stela found in Memphis reads, "By order of Queen Nefertiti, Amon's name shall be erased." Another document states those who fled from the great queen's wrath migrated north. Akhenaten might have been a dreamy, mystical idealist, but Nefertiti was a cold-blooded, pragmatic politician. Around 1340 BCE, the situation became even more complicated. Egypt's external enemies saw this internal chaos as an opportunity. Hittite king Suppiluliuma, seeing Egypt's weakness, attacked Egyptian territories in Syria. Rebellions broke out in Nubia. Southern borders were under threat. Mediterranean trade came to a standstill because merchants were worried about Egypt's instability. People began starving because most resources were being spent on Amarna's magnificence. But the real big problem was the intrigues within the palace and the succession crisis. Nefertiti had 6 daughters, but none of them were male. In Egypt, pharaonic succession traditionally passed through male heirs. The eldest daughters, Meritaten and Mekhetaten, were still very young, so who would ascend to the throne? At this point, a mysterious figure entered the scene, Smenkhkare. Who was this young man? Where did he come from? Why did he suddenly appear as co-pharaoh alongside Akhenaten? Some texts describe Smenkhkare as Akhenaten's younger brother. Other sources say he was his son, but the most shocking and controversial theory is this: Smenkhkare might actually be Nefertiti herself in male disguise. This theory might seem crazy, but female rulers taking male identities wasn't rare at all in the ancient world. In Egyptian history, Hatshepsut became pharaoh by disguising herself as a man, ruling while wearing a false beard. The mysterious events of 1336 BCE form one of history's greatest disappearance stories. Nefertiti was still actively documented until early that year. An ostraca found at Amarna reads, "Good season 4, 3rd day of the month, great Queen Nefertiti conducted the temple ceremony." But a few months later, her name appears in no documents. Her absence from palace records, her figure erased from artworks, even her own tomb preparations suddenly stopped. Nefertiti's disappearance wasn't just physical nil, it also looked like a systematic erasure operation. In some reliefs found at Amarna, her figure was deliberately scratched out. In some statues, her head was broken off. In some texts, other names were written over hers. This doesn't match the normal grieving process experienced with natural death. This was a hostile erasure operation. The first and most traditional theory is natural death. Sudden death was very common in the ancient world. Plague outbreaks, birth complications, infections. But if Nefertiti died of natural causes, why wasn't a magnificent funeral ceremony held? When Hatshepsut died, magnificent ceremonies were organized. When Titi died, Amenhotep III mourned for days. Why are there no mourning records for Nefertiti? The second theory is political coup. The Amun priests and powerful supporters of the old order might have eliminated this queen who destroyed their 1,000-year-old system. Nefertiti was the most radical and ruthless supporter of the religious revolution. In her absence, Akhenaten could become softer, more controllable. A papyrus found in Memphis states, "The fall of the great enemy was celebrated." Could this be referring to Nefertiti? The third theory is voluntary withdrawal and identity change. Perhaps Nefertiti, foreseeing the approaching disaster, acted wisely and withdrew from power. She took on the Smenkhkare identity and continued ruling in male disguise. This could have been a perfect strategy to both protect herself and maintain power. The fourth theory is family conflict and exile. A major disagreement arose between her and Akhenaten, and Nefertiti was expelled from the palace. Perhaps Akhenaten was forced to sacrifice his wife under increasing pressure. But the most surprising evidence came in a papyrus discovered at Amarna in 2015. This document mentions Great Queen Nefertiti's Great Transformation, followed by the word curse. What does Great Transformation mean? Why is the word curse used? Does this show that Nefertiti was believed to have supernatural powers? The figure of Smenkhkare, who appeared shortly after Nefertiti's disappearance, deepens this mystery even further. This mysterious ruler only reigned for 3 years and also disappeared mysteriously. Smenkhkare was so unclear that some archaeologists even questioned whether he was a real person. Smenkkare's titles are very interesting: beloved of Aten, beloved of Akhenaten, and most notably, Lord of Egypt. This last title was usually used only for male pharaohs, but sometimes powerful queens could also take it. Additionally, Smenkkare's cartouche royal name frame was sometimes written with feminine endings. Very meaningful detail. DNA tests conducted in 2010 gave shocking results. Analysis of the mummy extracted from tomb KV 55 in the Valley of the Kings showed this person was Tutankhamun's father, meaning Akhenaten. But this mummy's age and physical characteristics were different from expected. Even more interesting, analysis of the pelvis bones calculated a 30% probability that this mummy was female. Dr. Joanne Fletcher's study, which began in 2003 and expanded in 2010, created great controversy. She claimed that the younger lady mummy found in tomb KV 35 could be Nefertiti. This mummy's skull measurements, tooth structure, wig remnants, and physical characteristics matched Nefertiti's known features. Additionally, the mummy's right arm was missing nines, a detail also missing from the Nefertiti bust. In 2018, during a new examination at the Cairo Museum, a faience fragment was discovered in the museum's storage. This fragment showed both Nefertiti's cartouche and Smenkkare's symbols together. Was this coincidence or proof they were the same person? Studies using modern facial reconstruction technology also gave interesting results. The recreated faces of mummies thought to be Smenkhkare showed striking similarities to Nefertiti's famous bust. Dr. Caroline Wilkinson from Manchester University's 2019 study calculated the similarity rate at 78%. Also, artworks made during the Smenkhkare period had very interesting details. In these works, Smenkhkare was sometimes depicted with very feminine features: thin waist, wide hips, soft facial features. In traditional Egyptian art, male pharaohs were always shown with masculine features. Why was this different? The Nefertiti mystery is also deeply connected to young Tutankhamun's story. Who was this young pharaoh? Where did he come from? And most importantly, was there a connection with Nefertiti? DNA tests conducted in 2008 definitively proved that Tutankhamun was Akhenaten's son. But who was his mother? Tests showed that Tutankhamun's mother was his father's sister. Could this be Nefertiti? If Nefertiti really was Akhenaten's sister, this was possible. In 2014, Dr. Nicholas Reeves put forward a theory that would shake the entire Egyptology world. He claimed there might be secret chambers in Tutankhamun's tomb, and these chambers might hide Nefertiti's real tomb. According to him, Tutankhamun's tomb was hastily prepared and actually made for someone else, probably for Nefertiti. Radar scans conducted between 2015 to 2018 created excitement in the Valley of the Kings. Scans performed on the walls of Tutankhamun's burial chamber detected voids behind the walls. Dr. Mamdouh Eldamadi announced these voids existed with 90% probability. This discovery created great media interest. National Geographic made a documentary. Discovery Channel produced a special program. Everyone was asking the same question: was Nefertiti in the secret chambers? More detailed scans conducted in 2016 made the results somewhat more complicated. Different radar systems gave different results. Some confirmed there were voids, while others showed solid walls. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities was being cautious because there was risk of damaging Tutankhamun's tomb. In 2017, French experts announced in final scans that no large voids were found but small cavities might exist. Although this result was disappointing, research continued. But the real surprising discovery came from detailed analysis of Tutankhamun's burial goods. Dr. Aidan Dobson's 2019 study showed that about 60 of the 320 objects in the tomb were originally made for a woman, especially the golden mask, sarcophagus, and some jewelry were designed according to female anatomy and later adapted for a male. The most striking example was Tutankhamun's second middle sarcophagus. The sarcophagus's facial features were clearly feminine: thin eyebrows, soft jawline, feminine lips. The cartouches had been changed, but the original design was obvious. Was the sarcophagus made for Nefertiti? The technological advances of the 21st century offer new opportunities to solve the Nefertiti mystery. LiDAR scanning technology, satellite imaging, advanced DNA analysis, and AI-assisted facial recognition systems help illuminate what happened 3,000 years ago. In 2020, scans conducted in the Valley of the Kings using LiDAR technology discovered previously unknown chambers and tunnels. This system could see up to 50 meters deep underground. Results showed there were still undiscovered tombs in the valley. In 2021, Dr. Zahi Hawass's team conducted ultra-detailed analysis of objects found in Tutankhamun's tomb using electron microscopy and spectrometry. These objects' construction techniques, materials used, and even fingerprints were analyzed. The results were shocking. Some objects had female fingerprints, and these prints matched the pharaonic family's DNA. Thanks to revolutionary advances in DNA technology, in 2022, ancient DNA analyses became much more sensitive. Now, not just gender and family relationships, but physical characteristics, disease history, and even lifestyle could be determined. New tests conducted on mummies in the Valley of the Kings made the family tree much clearer. The most striking result came from analysis conducted on the KV-21A mummy. This mummy had been listed as an unknown queen for many years, but DNA tests in 2022 showed this mummy could be Tutankhamun's mother. And if this was true, could this mummy be Nefertiti? The discovery made in 2023 came from a completely different place. Inscriptions on ostraca, pottery shards found during ongoing excavations at Amarna told of Nefertiti's final days. According to these texts, the queen voluntarily performed the Great Transformation. The phrase Great Transformation in Egyptian literature was used to describe identity change, not death. Facial analysis studies using artificial intelligence technology also gave surprising results. IBM's Watson AI system compared Nefertiti's famous bust with various mummies. Results showed similarity rates above 70% in 3 different mummies. In a study conducted as part of Google's Arts and Culture project, Nefertiti-related objects in museums around the world were digitally combined. This virtual reconstruction gave new clues about the missing years of her life. The conspiracy theories that developed around Nefertiti's disappearance can sometimes be more interesting than scientific research. Although these theories are completely fantastic, some contain surprising clues. One of the most widespread conspiracy theories is the claim that Nefertiti was actually an alien. According to supporters of this theory, her abnormal beauty, extraordinary intelligence, and vision far beyond her time were proof she wasn't from Earth. The elongated skull shapes seen in Amarna art were also cited as support for this theory. Of course, this is completely fantastic, but what's interesting is that some of these claims are supported by certain archaeological findings. Another theory suggests Nefertiti was the leader of a secret organization. This organization consisted of mysterious priests trying to secretly preserve the ancient Egyptian religion and protect thousands of years of knowledge. According to this theory, Nefertiti's disappearance was actually a planned operation to take over this organization. It's claimed that the roots of secret societies like Freemasons and Illuminati trace back to this organization. A more scientific-seeming theory argues that Nefertiti possessed medical knowledge far ahead of her time. Some texts found at Amarna contain references to disease treatments and chemical formulas. Supporters of this theory claim Nefertiti had modern medical knowledge and was therefore seen as dangerous by normal people and eliminated. The most romantic theory is the claim that Nefertiti found the formula for immortality and is still alive. According to this theory, she didn't actually die, but changed her physical form and continued living with different identities. It's argued that powerful female figures seen in different periods of history, Cleopatra, Helen of Troy, Joan of Arc, were actually Nefertiti. In 2020, a truly surprising discovery was made during an examination at the British Museum. During X-ray analysis of the Nefertiti bust, a small cavity was discovered inside the sculpture. In this cavity, a very small papyrus scroll was found. The texts on the papyrus haven't been fully deciphered yet, but phrases like secret location and eternal return can be distinguished. More recently, satellite image analyses conducted in collaboration with National Geographic and NASA revealed previously unknown structures around Amarna. Around one of these structures, there were unusual geometric patterns. These patterns didn't resemble any known Egyptian architecture from ancient times. The most interesting conspiracy theory is the cryptographic approach called the Nefertiti Code. According to this theory, texts and artworks found at Amarna contain a secret message system. Analysis using IBM's quantum computers discovered mathematical patterns in hieroglyphic texts. Could these patterns be a map showing Nefertiti's location after her disappearance? In 2021, Dr. Ahmed Badawi from Cairo University made a surprising discovery in the architecture of Amarna temples. The placement of the temples pointed to specific stars in the sky map, and the arrangement of these stars formed a very special configuration in 1336 BCE, as exactly the year Nefertiti disappeared. Was this coincidence or a planned sign? Paranormal researchers also showed interest in this mystery. In ghost hunting sessions conducted in the Valley of the Kings, communication with Nefertiti's spirit was claimed. Messages obtained from these sessions told a consistent story. Nefertiti didn't die. She just moved to a higher dimension and was still protecting Egypt. To understand Nefertiti's disappearance, we also need to examine what happened to other family members. The fate of her 6 daughters might contain clues about their mother. The eldest daughter, Meritans, married her father. Their marriage was normal in Egypt, but what's interesting is Meritaten's sudden empowerment after her mother disappeared. In some texts, she's referred to as Great Queen. Was she taking over her mother's role? The second daughter, Meritates, died young, but her death was suspicious. In a relief found at Amarna, while Meritaten is depicted on her deathbed, there's a figure of a crying woman beside her. Could this woman be Nefertiti? If so, Nefertiti was alive at least until her daughter's death. The third daughter, Enkhesenamun, later married Tutankhamun. Her story is very dramatic because after Tutankhamun died, she wrote to the Hittite royal family proposing marriage. In a letter, she wrote she was in a terrible situation and was deprived of her mother's protection. Was this proof that Nefertiti was no longer alive? The other three daughters, Neferneferuorten Tesheret, Neferneferuor, lost in the depths of history. What happened to them isn't even known. Could such systematic disappearance be coincidence? Child graves found at Amarna in 2019 partially answered this question. These graves contained DNA belonging to royal family members. Analyses showed that at the end of Akhenaten's period, a great dispersal occurred in the royal family. Ostraca found during 2023 excavations at Amarna gave surprising information about Nefertiti's final years. These texts, written on pottery shards, recorded palace conversations. One fragment read, "The great queen heard the gods call and accepted the great transformation." Another fragment, "She will no longer use her old name. Her new identity is the god's gift." Did these texts show that Nefertiti consciously changed identity? The most surprising text was this: "Enemies think she's dead, but she lives in a secret place with powerful friends." Where was this secret place? Who were these powerful friends? A papyrus found in the Cairo Museum's storage in 2022, recorded in the 1920s but forgotten, contained even more striking information. This papyrus detailed the date and location where Nefertiti was last seen. The great queen was last seen by the riverbank, in white clothes, alone, walking westward. The western direction symbolized the land of the dead in Egypt, but the text didn't use the word death. Only the phrase "great journey" appeared. Modern technology is revolutionizing the discovery of invisible evidence. A new research project starting in 2024 aims to solve the entire Nefertiti mystery. An AI system developed in collaboration with Google and Harvard University analyzes all Egyptian hieroglyphic texts, finding hidden connections related to Nefertiti. The system detects expressions like "Great Queen," "the Beautiful One," and similar phrases in texts written in different periods. Results show that descriptions similar to Nefertiti continued even after the period when she disappeared. MIT's quantum radar technology conducts new scans in the Valley of the Kings. This technology can detect very deep voids that traditional radars can't see. Initial results are promising. Near KV-62, Tutankhamun's tomb, there's a large void never detected before. AI-assisted bone analysis also gives surprising results. Dr. Sarah Parkak's team from Oxford University analyzes all unknown queen mummies with AI. The system performs identification by combining bone structure, dental analysis, and DNA data. 3 mummies show over 85% compatibility with Nefertiti. The latest discovery, made in early 2024, turns all theories upside down. In a new tomb found at Saqqara, papyrus scrolls telling Nefertiti's true story are discovered. Translation of these scrolls isn't yet complete, but initial results are shocking. According to the texts, Nefertiti really didn't die. She left Egypt as part of a secret plan and established a new life by the shore of the Great Lake. The phrase "Great Lake" probably refers to Lake Victoria, the source of the Nile. This region was under Egyptian control at the time. Did Nefertiti continue her life there? Even more striking is the date mentioned in the papyrus as the time when the queen will return. When this date is converted to the Gregorian calendar, it corresponds exactly to the year 2025. When we bring all this evidence together, the most likely scenario regarding Nefertiti's disappearance appears to be this: under increasing political and religious pressure, Nefertiti made a strategic decision for her own safety and the protection of the A10 religion. She faked her death and secretly left Egypt. The Smenkhkare identity was part of this plan. Perhaps she briefly continued ruling in male disguise, then killed this identity too, and completely disappeared. DNA evidence and mummy analyses might show she continued living with different identities. Perhaps various queen mummies actually represent her different periods. Modern technology and upcoming discoveries might completely solve this mystery. But perhaps Nefertiti's greatest achievement was managing to keep us talking about her 3,000 years later. She wasn't just a beautiful queen, she was the smartest, most strategic, most visionary woman of her time, and perhaps history's greatest escape artist. Nefertiti's story isn't finished yet, because every new discovery makes her legend grow. And who knows, maybe she's really waiting for the time to return. Whether Nefertiti's mystery gets solved or not, her legacy is clear. She became a symbol of women's power and intelligence. She fundamentally changed the world she lived in 3,000 years ago and still inspires today. What do you think really happened to Nefertiti? Which theory makes the most sense? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you love these kinds of historical mysteries, don't forget to subscribe, because next week I'm going to tell you another ancient secret. Nefertiti's story continues, and maybe the truth is more surprising than we can imagine.